Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know where you draw the line anymore of looking at these penalties and go, we want to protect clearly what we believe to be the reason most people watch is the quarterback.
Yep.
Here's the only thing I'd say to debunk that. Do you know how many people watched the Dallas Cowboys LA Rams game this past week? 24 million. And they weren't tuning in for Dak. They weren't tuning in for Cooper Rush. It's because they're Cowboys fans and they're probably Rams fans. Like, the NFL has to get off this high horse of thinking that, oh, if we don't have, yeah, I get it. If an MVP, if a guy like Tom Brady gets hurt, yeah, it stinks. But there's going to be other guys who step up into the place. Cooper Rush, case in point, is a backup who now everyone's talking about with Dallas. And quite frankly, it's been Micah Parsons and their defense and their rushing attack that's largely led him to this point. Cooper Rush has been fine, but it hasn't been like he's throwing for over 300 yards every game, like putting this team on his back. So it's odd to me that we keep trying to implement rules instead of, because what we're doing is we're putting more defensive players at risk. Like, if you look at Chris Jones and what they're asking him to do in that instance, okay, I stripped the quarterback, I'm taking him to the ground. Now I've got to not only get the ball in my arm to have possession on the fumble, but now I have to roll so I don't land on him, but then I can't hurt myself either. Like, he couldn't have gone right. He would have hit the knees of one of his defenders or his teammates. If he would have went left, he would have hit one of the other offensive linemen and defensive players. Like, where do you want him to fall? The whole thing is absurd. And the NFL needs to take ownership of it, because they're the ones right now that I think they don't have the best interest of the game in mind, even though I know the excuses, well, we got to protect these quarterbacks. Dude, the quarterbacks have to protect themselves. That's why they get paid so much. Like, I'm sorry. Like, they have to protect themselves. They have to get rid of the football, or coaches have to learn how to protect them and not have all these 5-man pass protections where you're allowing guys to get beat one-on-one. It's the bottom line. So it irks me from that standpoint, because I'm a former quarterback. I took my fair share of hits. There was never a time where I was like, oh, I felt like I needed more protection out there, when I'm running around or sitting in the pocket.
I agree with you completely. I would like to make it reviewable, and I don't know that that's necessarily
How'd that work out with pass interference, though?
Oh, no, it's exactly
a disaster.
Terrible.
And here's the problem: is you're taking one subjective call, and you're then putting on the onus to someone else in a booth who's looking at it on TV to make it as subjective. And so then here's the problem with that. One, we don't re-officiate the play in the NFL like they do, for example, in college when there's a targeting call. They're re-officiating the play, which is great, right? Like, that's a great way of looking at it. Let's re-officiate the play. Forget about what was made on the field. What does the guy in the booth think? The only problem with that is it's then up to his interpretation. And then the other problem with that is everything looks more vicious when it's down in slow-mo or it's on, you can mess with it. So it's like, yeah, you have a 300-pound guy who's throwing a 225-pound quarterback. Guess what? It's going to look vicious. And so you might be more apt to make those calls than seeing it real time, or maybe not. Maybe you are picking up the flag and not calling it. I just think adding a replay official into this equation only makes it more of a disaster, just like we have with pass interference.